Welcome to The Localist, a conversation with local makers and independent entrepreneurs. I'm your host, author of the Localist book and former small business owner, Carrie Rollwagon. So today we're going to talk a little bit about events. So if you've thrown an event for your business, or if you have thrown an event for yourself, or you work for a business and sometimes you have to be involved with these, you know that they can be pretty annoying. Not only are there a lot of logistics about what food are you gonna and drinks are you gonna provide, what's gonna be free, what's gonna be charged, who's gonna be like working the room and making sure that the trash isn't overflowing and making sure you're talking to people and all of those things. But that's not even really what we're talking about today. Today we're really talking about how do you even get people to come to your event. So how do you promote your event? Now, I don't know if this is more difficult in the age of social media or not. It feels like it is because it feels like everybody's competing for attention like never before. There are so many things going on, and even sometimes when you get people to sign up for the event, they don't show up for the event. I always have a lot of dread for these things. I always say like my fear is that like 2 to 5 people will show up, because if no one shows up to the event, you can kind of fake it. Like, you can use social media, you can use photos to you could just not say anything, which is fine. That's probably the thing to do. That's more honest. Or you can kind of take a picture of yourself, a picture of the food setup, not really say much, say something vague, and people assume it was great, you know? Like, if there are, 7 to 10 people there, that's probably enough for an event. Even if it was supposed to be bigger, that's enough that there's people there, you can get some good pictures for social, you can make it look successful, and people feel like, okay, there were other people there. But my real big fear is that like 2 to 3 people show up. So now I feel like I've failed on the event, and also people know that. So that's really like the problem area for me always. But we usually, if we're throwing an event, we also want more than 7 to 10 people. So I'm going to share my best tips for how to plan and how to get there. So I've thrown a lot of events in my career. I'm by no means like a party planner, so I'm not pretending to be that. And there are people who can help you with these events. I'm actually going to link in the show notes to this episode we did with Workshop Local, and they actually host events professionally and will really help you out with these things. And there are other people you can get to do this. But a lot of us are scrappy and trying to do this ourselves, so I wanted to give some tips for how to do that. All right, so I used to own a bookstore. I'm co-founder of Church Street Coffee and Books, and when I owned that store, we hosted a lot of events. We had hosted a lot of signings, and really fewer pure signings, because a book signing is kind of boring. And we hosted kind of like events. We did things like a scavenger hunt that was all over the city. We had things in the store. We had themed events, things like that. And then for my former bookstore, Jonathan Benton, I did that as well. And I host events for Infomedia, which is where I work now. Every month we have what's called One Quick Coffee, where we invite people over to Little Professor across the street, and we kind of do like a lunch and learn type of thing, like we teach on a training. I'll link to those in the show notes too. But this is turning out to be a lot more of a promo than I meant it to be, so let's kind of jump into the details. All right, so why would you even want to have an event? If there's such a pain, why even do it? Well, for one thing, it helps to build customer loyalty. So it's one thing if you have a retail store, or especially almost if you have like an online business. It's really nice for customers to feel like they can actually connect. And more than just come in and buy something. It's nice to have a time where they feel like they're part of something special. They feel like they're part of a community. You can make customers like stickier that way. So that's really helpful. It also helps you to just get to know your customers a little bit more. You do find things out from those kind of conversations that you wouldn't find out any other way. You can also kind of create a buzz around your company or your business because you're having the event. So in a lot of ways, the event itself is not even the whole point. The event itself is almost an excuse to talk about the fact that you have a business. So I know this sounds weird, but okay, we have like traditional media, we have like newspapers, TV shows, news shows, things like that. And then you also have social media. And both of those sides of media kind of run off of what is new, what is different. They really work best when you're not saying the same thing over and over. So that's why an event is perfect, because you're always saying like, hey, here's my product, buy my product, that kind of thing. But with an event, you can actually have just a new thing to talk about. And that can really get the attention of traditional media as well. So one of my tips I would say is, if you can, Google how do you do a press release, write a simple press release for your event, and then Google some of the local news stations in your town, the free papers in your town, or the regular newspaper in your town. And you can send that press release to those people. Usually there'll be a contact. Sometimes you have to scroll to the bottom of those websites to find the contact. This doesn't have a super high return, so I would focus on the other things we're going to talk about today. But if you can get on a local news station or a free paper, they are always looking for local things to profile, and that really can help you get in front of new people who you never got in front of before. So that is a really good thing to do. But even if you're not going the traditional media route and you're just posting it on your own social media, it still gives you something new and different to talk about, and that is really good. And also, an event can help you make money. You don't have to charge for the event, but you can charge for the event. Now, if you're going to charge for an event, you do need to kind of bring more to it. Make sure you're having food and drink. Make sure there's some value that you wouldn't get from just like walking into your store. But this can be a way to drive revenue if you do it right. But even if you're not charging for the event, just having more people be like more connected to your business, find out more about what you do. If you have a retail store, just walking into your store and buying something, that can help to drive revenue. So there are lots of reasons that we do events, but how do we make them more successful? One tip I have is to encourage people to sign up or pay for it. Now, it seems weird to say, get more people to your event by having them pay to come, because you think that like that doesn't make sense. More people are going to want to come to a free event, right? But that's not really accurate. More people may sign up for a free event, but what happens when you get to the day of the event? What would you do? What would I do? I know what I would do. I would look at that sign up and I would think, I kind of wanted to do that at the time, but I'm busy today and I don't feel like doing it. And I have no skin in the game, I guess. It's a gross metaphor. But anyway, I don't have any like real reason to go, and I'm probably not going to show up. And a lot of people are going to do that. The benefit of a paid event is that if you bought a ticket to an event, you're not as likely to blow it off. So if you have an event that you could charge for, you're actually helping the people that are paying for it because they're more likely to come and get the benefit, and you're helping yourself. Now, you can have a low charge. You could have a $5 charge. So this is not like a big revenue booster for you. You're not trying to, gouge people or anything. But it's more that the fact that just they bought a ticket, they're more likely to come. If you don't want to charge, and like for one quick question or one quick coffee, for example, we don't charge for that. But we do have a sign up. So we use Eventbrite. I think it used to be free, now it's like paid. Maybe we just got on a paid level or something. But I think there are other ways to do this. Even if you don't use Eventbrite and you want to go totally free and just do a very short Google form, that's not as polished, but you could do that. One of the benefits of having people sign up is that usually you also have their email, so you could use that for an email campaign. You should really get an opt-in if you're doing that, but you could send like a reminder email and then, have an opt-in in that email, something like that. So there are other reasons to have people sign up for the event. But one reason is they're not going to be as likely to come as if they paid for it, but they will be more likely to come than if you didn't have either one. Okay, so the other thing, there's like 4 things. My second thing is post the event where people are going to look for it. So a lot of small businesses I see make a big mistake of you post the event in your story and then it's over. Well, guess what? Stories on Instagram disappear. you need to have your event. You do need to post in stories. That's great. But you need to post in stories several times because that stuff is going to disappear. And you also need to have a representation of the event on hopefully all your social media, but definitely your most popular form of social media and on your website. Because what happens, I see a story, I'm like, that looks interesting, but I don't do anything right now. That's probably what's going to happen. And then 2 days later, I'm going to think, wait, didn't that bookstore have an event, or didn't that bar have an event? And then I'm going to look at their website and I'm going to look at their social media and I'm going to find nothing about it. Because most of us don't do this. Because usually Instagram feed posts don't really perform anymore, so we tend to ignore them in favor of reels and stories. But even if you do a reel, unless you have a cover slide, people can't even see what that reel is about from just scrolling through your social media. So if they're just looking for information about this event, they're going to look at your social feed, they're going to see nothing, and they're going to forget all about it. So when you have an event, make sure you have a graphic that's a regular feed post on your social media, on Instagram probably, and Facebook, and make sure it's on your website. You can do it on the blog. You can just do a blog about, I'm having this event, blah, 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 blah. But make sure there's a representation for each. If you like to keep your feed pristine or something like that, you can delete them after the event. But until the event happens, make sure those are up there so when people want details, they can get details. It's also good to put a link in your profile that has an easy way to get to the event, but if you don't do that, at least do the other two things. All right, promote more than you want to. I am guilty of this. I think we're all guilty of this. We think people, who wants to hear from me all of the time? I am sick of talking about this. I don't want to be annoying. I think the other day when Morgan Johnston was on the podcast this was a while ago, but we'll link to the episode. She talked about how it used to be kind of a marketing thing that people had to see something 8 times before it really stuck. And I think the number she said now is it's up to 36 times. And I don't know about those numbers, but I do know, and so do you, that we're inundated with messages all the time about, this is going on, that's going on. We forget. So while I will feel like I don't want to get on stories again, people are sick of me. Maybe they are sick of me. Maybe you're sick of me. But generally speaking, they're not going to, it doesn't mean that much to them. It's like they're flipping through stories or whatever. They're not that annoyed. They're just like, oh yeah, this is happening. You need to get out there more than you want to get out there. Now, one trick to do this is to find different ways to talk about the same event. So if you are just posting the same promo in stories or whatever, all over and over, that may be annoying. Honestly, people are probably not going to notice. They're probably only going to really notice one of them, so it won't matter. But a lot of times what I do is try to take different angles. So one time I'll announce the event. Another time I might show that I'm prepping for the event. Another time I might say oh, this vendor just came in and is going to be at the event and we just found this out and this is exciting. So if this makes sense, find different angles to talk about. So it also, it kind of brings people into you creating the event, and people like that. So they feel invested. They're like, oh, they walk in and they're like, oh, I remember when she said she just didn't get to deal with good people and, they sponsored this party and she's so excited about that. And there's the good people now. They feel like they're kind of part of it. So bring them into the planning, post pictures when you're setting up, when you're prepping, interview one of your staff members. Just do a lot of behind the scenes, and behind the scenes is kind of a trick for ways to continually promote the event. Now make sure when you do that, you do blurb you mention the event. But that's a way that you can talk too much about it without feeling like you're talking too much about it. Send reminders to people. So especially, that's another reason to have people sign up, that you have their emails. So you send those reminders, just a simple email that's like, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you. Here are all the details again. It also helps to tell people where to park in that email, because if people are like me, and I don't think they're as much like me, but my whole life revolves around whether or not I have a place to park. So that can actually be really important for people though. So let them know again in that email, in that reminder, here's the who, what, when, where of the event. Here's what to expect. If they're supposed to bring anything, remind them of that. If they're not, tell them that. Tell them like, you just show up, we'll have food, whatever. Remind them of that. And then also let them know this is where we're located. This is where you can park. Parking is free, or it's street parking or whatever. Just give them those details. You're just clearing one more hurdle for them that they don't have to clear themselves. And then this is my favorite new tip because I learned it on the podcast, and I learned it from Catherine on Workshop Local. Again, we'll link to that episode. But she said people love to have an actual invitation. So if you can send paper invitations, great. But she also said it works just as well to send a direct message or to send a text message. And I tried this at my last event, and it was so great. I just made a list of like 5 people that I thought actually might want to come. And I texted them and I said, hey, I would love to see you have this event going on. And we also at Infomedia, a few other people, this was an Infomedia event, so we had a few other people look at the guest list, and if they knew people on the guest list, they just direct messaged them or sent them even a short email, a personal one, to say, I can't wait to see you tomorrow. We had such a better turnout because of that. It is a wonderful tip, and I hope that you use it too. It feels a little cringy, but honestly, it works great, and I don't think anybody minded. I mean, they came, didn't they? All right, so I hope these make your next event a success. I would encourage you to have an event. It really can be really great for your business. So thank you for listening to The Localist. We record here at Infomedia Studios. Infomedia is also our podcast sponsor. If you're interested in photos, videos, or podcasts, hit up infomedia.com and fill out that contact form. We would love to help. The Localist podcast is written and produced by me, Carrie Rollwagon. Our showrunner is Taylor Davis. Our outreach manager is Jen Tucker. And our marketing and promotions expert is Elena Harmons. So until next time, here's to thinking local. Nope, I always get this wrong. Until next time, here's to thinking global by acting local and putting small shops before big box.